We are spending the day with the Jeep Wagoneer S, the first all-electric vehicle from Jeep, and we're going to find out what it's like and is it worth consideration if you are shopping for a premium luxury all-electric SUV. We're going to be out and about in the Metro Detroit area today, starting off at Belle Isle. We've got the old casino here and the Wagoneer S. This one is a launch edition, and take a look at that color. It is a very, very cool dark shade of blue. And in terms of styling, it definitely looks like a Jeep, but swoopier. That's how I describe it. Super sporty. One of my favorite elements so far that I've discovered is this cantilevered rear wing. It's actually pretty crazy. So see the side profile there, and then take a look from above. That is quite a lot of open air space for the very raked rear windshield here on the Wagoneer S. That's a really, really cool design element. What's the plan for today? Well, we're going to be essentially just wandering around and exploring Metro Detroit with the Wagoneer S, discovering what this thing is like. We'll be heading up towards Birmingham, a really nice suburb in the Detroit area, for lunch. And later tonight, we're actually going to a Detroit Tigers game. But come along as we experience what the Wagoneer S is like. Figured out if we put the Jeep right here, you can kind of see the Detroit skyline back there. You have the Renaissance Center and some porta potties, but looked cool for a nice little photo op. Let's go explore the rest of Belle Isle. Today, my drive partner is Jana from Real Mom Car Tours.
Yep.
All right. So we have an actual power button in the Wagoneer S. There's a little welcome sequence there, the logo launch edition. And we are showing 261 miles of range, currently at 94%, which is a little bit below what Jeep says this could do. They say right around 300. I think it's like 294 is the EPA range out of the about 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. I think it's a little bit below that, but rear world range is showing just a little bit lower, 261. In my opinion, you kind of have to be around that 300 mile mark to be properly competitive. Ideally a little bit over, because you're not always charging to 100%. Typically you're supposed to charge to 80% in EVs. So you want to see a little bit higher from that range number. It can charge pretty quickly though. 400 volt architecture, I believe 20 to 80% in 23 minutes on a fast enough charger. Let's take a look at the exterior design. So this one is finished in a paint color called Fathom Blue. It's a really nice dark blue with quite a bit of metallic flake. Take a look at that in the sun. And something else really interesting to note is there is no chrome exterior trim or badging on the Wagoneer S. If you're not familiar, the process of chrome plating things is actually pretty toxic and not that friendly. So that's a decision they made on the Wagoneer S. Instead, we have this like dark gray trim, kind of satin finish across the vehicle. Now, we don't have a traditional front grille because you don't need airflow as an EV in the same way that a gas car would, but the 7-bar Jeep grille is rather iconic. It is one of the signature styling traits of a Jeep, so they evolved it. You still have those styling elements, these 7 kind of pieces on the front fascia with the light bar going across. Is very sleek and slim and looks really sporty, but still immediately you look at it and yep, that looks familiar to be a Jeep. The overall side profile of this thing is much more sleek and sporty looking because as an EV, your aerodynamic efficiency is much more important because it impacts your efficiency and range. So this is the lowest coefficient of drag of any Jeep SUV ever. It's like 0.29, so much more slippery. Just take a look at that side silhouette, the way everything's a little bit more raked, especially back here. The windshield actually drops down pretty aggressively, and again you have that gigantic cantilevered rear wing, which is cool. It's a balance of design and function, but I just think visually it looks really impressive with that giant opening there with the rear windshield, and it just kind of floats back here. This is probably my favorite design element on the Wagoneer S. You have a Wagoneer S badge right here. It's kind of cool how it's a big S and they put the Wagoneer lettering inside. We've got the black and gray, so this pillar here is in that gray trim all around, and then you have the black roof, which gives you kind of a floating roof effect, blacked out mirrors. You get Wagoneer lettering along the side, and 20-inch wheels. It's actually kind of refreshing to see a modern day vehicle with 20-inch wheels, not massive 22s or even 24-inch wheels. Now, this is a smaller segment vehicle than the Grand Wagoneer and the full-size Wagoneer. Those things are absolutely enormous. This kind of feels more Grand Cherokee-ish size, but still a little bit more compact and just sportier looking. Now, coming around back, we have a big taillight bar, and then there's another little like lip spoiler here. Of course, Jeep branding with this actually blacked out badging, so relatively subtle there. The 4xe badging, that's Jeep's kind of branding for their hybrid electric, all-wheel drive capability, all of that. This still is a Jeep after all, so it needs to have that functionality, but much more smooth, aerodynamically optimized styling. Even down here, let's go ahead and open the trunk, take a look real quick. Is there a button back here? There, off-center button. This does have hands-free lift gate. Good amount of space, just a 2-row. But here, first Easter egg, established 1963. And underneath here, have some storage. That is like a little cargo cover hiding shield thing for the back. I am actually not quite sure what that is because there's an electric connector back there. I don't know, something with the EV system, but that's back there. And then this one also does have a front trunk. So press that to close. Big charging door right here. We still have a CCS charging, so DC fast charging is available. That comes out like that. And we have flush door handles for, again, better aerodynamic efficiency. If I go ahead and press here, we can open up the front trunk. We do have a small front trunk. Sometimes EVs in the segment do not have a front trunk. It's not massive, but you can put a little bit of stuff underneath there. And if we look under this little covering, there's our emergency tire kit. A little bit of like storage here in the foam. So it's nice there is a front trunk. For example, the GM platform EVs around this segment do not give us a front trunk at all. The Lyriq, the Chevy Blazer, you do not have a front trunk. So I'm pretty impressed with this paint actually. There's a lot of metallic flake, especially here in the sunlight hitting it. If it was later at night, darker, overcast, it would probably look much more black. It's a very deep blue with that metallic flake hitting it. But just take a look at right above that front headlight, that sheen from the sun. Definitely a nice scenic part of the city, crossing the bridge. We've got actually Canada's over there, and then heading back towards Detroit. You can see the Detroit skyline over there, which is pretty cool. Hunting for these murals in downtown Detroit is actually quite a lot of fun. We've got this Greetings from Detroit one here, and then this giant mural of Stevie Wonder, which is awesome. Just imagine painting something of this scale. This is enormous. That's gotta be at least 50, 60 feet. The detail is quite cool, and then the Greetings from Detroit is very fitting with the Wagoneer S. It's been enjoyable, but we need to head north towards Birmingham because it is almost time for lunch. So back on the road. The steering wheel has been redesigned. They actually said they expanded the upper part here for better visibility, and it works. You can see the entire cluster. Oftentimes with these full digital clusters, the steering wheel will block part of your view. Not in this. It does feel interesting shaped. It's not round. It's not a squircle. It's like extended on the top, kind of squared off, and then the bottom is flat bottom here, which is nice. You have more space with your legroom, and they said they designed it for when you're on the freeway with the driver assistance stuff, you can just kind of rest your hand here. So it's kind of this, I don't even know how to describe this shape, but it's not a conventional circular steering wheel. We have actual physical buttons on the wheel, which is also very, very nice because actual physical buttons to control are always welcome, but everything else here is all touchscreens, like your lower screen for your climate, your seat massage. It does say Wagoneer here, part of the Wagoneer family. So Jeep kind of is splitting into two sides. You have obviously the off-road stuff, right? Wrangler, Gladiator, what you think of when you imagine a Jeep. But with the whole Wagoneer lineup, they're really becoming much more luxurious. Even a Grand Cherokee has been quite nice. You go up to like a Summit Reserve of the previous generation. It's very, very nice. Actually, let's go down into Sport and floor it.
Wow.
That's quick. 600 horsepower, 617 pound-feet of torque. They say 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds for this launch edition. Now, the launch edition gets you that power pack to up the power to 600 horsepower. But the thing is, EVs, power is easy. It's very, very much more simplistic and straightforward to increase your power and acceleration. So back into auto, traction control turns on. But without a doubt, this thing is pretty quick. But living in the real world with this thing, what else? Let's turn on our active driving assist. We'll set, oh, that's off. There we go. Set the speed, 73 miles an hour. It's not hands-free, so that is a little bit of a downside. I do not believe there is any amount of full hands-free driving like you would get in a Blue Cruise equipped vehicle from Ford or Lincoln, Super Cruise, and anything in the GM family. So no full hands-free. Hopefully they can start adding that in the future to remain competitive from a advanced driver assistance system standpoint. Now we're showing 220 miles of range as we're on the freeway now. When you toggle into sport, it noticeably drops. So sport, let's see, traction control off. What is it going to show? Move animation, 198. That's a pretty noticeable decrease in range. Is there an eco? If I go into eco, there's some nice graphics there in the center cluster. 231. So I would not call this thing a range monster. The battery pack is reasonably sized. At about 100 kilowatt hours, it's reasonable, but there are other cars with this kind of size battery pack that will do over 300 miles, I think. But obviously, real-world usage is going to vary. When you're flooring it to use all 600 horsepower, that's not going to be the most efficient, and I imagine this thing has spent the 496 miles of its life being used, because that's what media cars live. But driver assistance stuff is okay. So as soon as you take your hand off the wheel, it gets angry. The green goes to orange. Oh, it's like split second. How much time do I have? Hands-free. Nope. It is seconds. So this is a hands-on level. I think this would be a level 2. Now, some of the other tech. We do have a digital rear view mirror, which I really like. So you flip that and the camera turns on. Big fan of that. Helps eliminate glare at night. And also if you've got people, luggage in the back of an SUV, it's easy to see out of. We have a small heads-up display there showing our driver assistance stuff right now. We'll do a more in-depth interior tour probably after lunchtime. That'll be the plan. We'll do a little bit of driving up in the suburbs and find somewhere to take you guys on a tour of the interior. Let's take an interior tour of the Wagoneer S. So this one is a launch edition, and we have the black interior with this dark maroon piping and stitching. The seats are ventilated, heated, and massage. There's a couple other different interior options too. There is a red one, which is really, really cool. There's even a lighter colored one, so plenty of different interior themes available. We talked a little bit about that steering wheel, so it is a unique shape. The top part is actually quite a bit expanded for better visibility of that digital cluster here. Flat bottom, you have more stitching here and actual physical buttons for things like interfacing with the cluster and also your driver assistance, cruise control, that kind of stuff. Wagoneer here right in the middle. On the door panel, you have an electric button for opening the door to get out, and then your standard window, mirror controls, memory seats, some silver texturing trim here, and the Macintosh speaker grille. You have a little logo right there. Now, there is interior ambient lighting, 64 color ambient lighting, which is pretty standard in today's modern vehicles, and definitely is a nice touch. Let's go ahead and hop in, shut the door. This one here has the suede headliner, which is always very nice. And we have a dual pane sunroof. So I can actually open the shade. So we can open the shade, and it's an actual dual pane sunroof. So you can tilt it. See right there, you can tilt to open a little bit, or I should be able to open it too. There we go. So that's actually a little bit of a rarity, I feel, in today's EV SUVs. A lot of them just have a big fixed glass roof that some of them you can kind of like tint, or some of them you can't do anything, like you can't close it at all. Some of them have a shade, but this one has an actual more conventional feeling sunroof, and we can go ahead and close that if you don't want any light getting in. The suede headliner is definitely nice. Now let's talk about screens, because we do have a lot of screens. I think it's 45 inches of combined digital screen. Your infotainment here running Uconnect, wireless CarPlay. The built-in system works pretty good. Had a couple times where it lagged just a little bit, But otherwise, you've got all the controls that you would expect. Graphics are pretty nice. Go back home, you have your built-in navigation. You can have your media pulled up. There's navigation, which does now have route planning. Let's try that out, actually. Let's just say I want to go to Chicago. The route planning is extra important in EVs because you want to be able to know what your range is going to be, where the best place to stop and charge is going to be. Let's see. And when you run the built-in system, it can interface with your battery percentage and all of that kind of stuff. So let's have this thing calculated, because I think when it first came out, that was maybe lacking a little bit. And as if most EVs, you can do over-the-air updates. So look, okay, we can do one charging stop, arrive with 20% of destination from 76%. We're stopping at Sam's Club in Portage, Michigan for fast 150 kilowatt charging, 35 minutes. And then we'll be in Chicago. Really? Huh, that's actually not bad. So it has a system now. Some of the more advanced vehicles, EVs, you can use the app, plan your route, and then send it. For example, Rivian, you can plan the route with the charging stops in the app, and then you say send the vehicle, and it pops up. That's really, really awesome. Hopefully, you're going to spend some time living with one of these. We'll play it around. I'm not actually going to Chicago. Calm down. The lower screen here is your climate and kind of comfort function. So you can change where your air is going, your temperature sliders here, your fan speed on the lower side here. And then we have our driver massage, passenger massage, and screen off. You can tap it to turn it back on. So no physical climate controls down here. The closest thing are the heated, cooled seats and heated steering wheel. They're more little touch panel, little buttons here on the piano black. That's actually not the most responsive. There we go. You do have some physical dials. That's actually nice little detailing. You feel the little pattern on the side. You can turn it off and then turn it back on. That's also your volume. This side, tune and scroll. This right here, for a second I thought this would turn on the passenger screen, but no, that is this screen here. To turn the passenger screen on and off, it's actually here. You have another bank of kind of touch panel things. So that right there, it actually clicks down. So there's a bunch of controls: traction control, lane centering, cameras. We can pull up our cameras. So you have overhead view, backup view, pretty good resolution here actually. You can make it go full width right there, the split. So plenty of camera views here. Oh, so you can pick on surround cam. There we go. So that's a bit of the technology in the screens. Passenger screen right here, is that currently off? There, now it's on. So when you're here, you can't see that. It's completely polarized. That's a safety thing, but there are some functions that you can control audio, you can HDMI in, you can also pull up the camera. So there is a passenger screen on the Wagoneer S. Lots of these modern luxury vehicles have it. It's very similar layout to the Grand Wagoneer. Of course, we are in the Wagoneer family and they wanted to keep that ethos here. They did a decently good job integrating things. One of the designers did mention they didn't want to just have like a tablet slapped on the dash. There's so much you can do when you have so much screen real estate, but this big piece of piano black does flow across. That being said, piano black and screens will show every single little crumb of dust. Wait, dust is not measured in crumbs. Speck of dust. And of course, fingerprints. Now this one has the silver trim there. You can see a little bit of ambient lighting, the Macintosh sound system down there. The speaker has the logo. Seats are nice. You can tell it's a synthetic, like the leather material. There's actually no leather in here. Lots of recycled materials. I think they said the floor mat, like the anti-squeak felt kind of stuff in between the seats is a lot of recycled material. So they were wanting to be more conscious of that. You go up to a Grand Wagoneer, you can get actual real leather that a bull or cow had to pay the ultimate price for, but not in the Wagoneer S as an EV. They're being, I think, considerate of maybe the buyers and what they really find important. This has a cool kind of stitching insert pattern right here. The piping, that's purely a design thing. Have storage here in the center console. Actually pretty good size. Wireless charging pad right there. You have two little buttons here for auto hold, and that looks like hill descent. Cup holders, and I actually really like this. You can also put a phone there. So maybe I have my phone on the wireless charger, my wife's riding passenger, whoever's there, they can put their phone there. Convenient little slot. Actual power button, we showed that. This is the rotary dial for selecting your drive mode or drive direction, driving, and this is metal. This actually feels really nice. I'm impressed with this because it's something you interface with all the time. And then this toggle here for your various drive modes. Interior space is definitely pretty good. It looks sleek and compact on the outside, but inside I actually think it feels pretty spacious. We also have that digital rear view mirror on off. All right, so let's hop out into the second row. I have the driver's seat to where I am comfortable sitting and driving at 6'3". Flush door handles here. There's a little like pull button on the inside for better aerodynamics. And now the second row. This is only available as a 2-row configuration. Now, in we go. Okay, legroom is actually okay. My knees are just barely touching, but I have pretty good headroom, even with the panoramic roof up there. I've got decent headroom, and it slopes down pretty aggressively. Headroom is still fine in the second row, but right after that, you can see how aggressively the rear windshield rakes. Honestly, that rear window opening is like sports car kind of rake. Like, it's not that big of a view out, which is why the digital rear view mirror is also really, really helpful. So we got good amount of storage back there. We've got our backpacks and camera gear there. Oh, it says Wagoneer on the back of that panel. I'm gonna go look for Easter eggs in a moment. But the second row seats are okay, comfortable. They're heated and cooled here. We have a full power outlet if you want to plug in your laptop. USB-C ports back here. And the speaker grill also has a little Macintosh thing light up, and you have some ambient lighting. So it's a good second row. This thing definitely it checks the boxes of being a premium entry luxury SUV, right? Like the features that you expect when you go into a luxury vehicle. Really nice sound system. This thing has it, right? The 19-speaker, 1200 watt Macintosh sound system. Heated, cooled, massaged seats. Heated steering wheel. It's got a lot of those things that you would expect, but it's not quite full out ultra luxury, right? When you think some of the German luxury brands or a Cadillac or a Lincoln, I think they have just a little bit more, but this definitely, it gives you a lot of content. Let's look for a couple Easter eggs. So it says established 1963 with the little side profile there, Wagoneer. If I pop the frunk again and we look underneath there, I did find an Easter egg earlier. Where is it? On this side. Got like a little cartoonized Jeep Wrangler. That's pretty cool. So there's one there. I think on the passenger side, open this, you also have the same established 1963. And then that's just a logo. I wouldn't call that an Easter egg. What else? Press that for the trunk. There was one right here, established 1963, and it does say Wagoneer up there. I don't know if you count that as an Easter egg. What else? It's always fun looking for these little Easter egg and details. If you know of other ones, comment below. But those are all the ones that I found right now. Quick tour of the interior, a couple of the details and technology of the Wagoneer S. We found ourselves a parking garage because it's just a little bit darker here to show off the lighting, the front end lighting. You have the light bar, the very sleek headlights, and that subtle kind of downlit glow illumination of that front fascia design. It's not conventional Jeep look, but it definitely evokes it with those 7 segments there. It looks really, really cool, actually. We also have the full width rear light bar back here, and I really like this wing. This like roof mounted cantilever wing is just so cool. The way I could put my entire hand through that, like that's so cool. Like, it's just all open here. We've also got some interior ambient lighting we can see. When you open the door, it turns orange, kind of like a warning. So if you have it open at night, somebody doesn't accidentally just take your door off. That's a cool thing with interior ambient lighting. And it's got lots of different colors. So this looks like we're on a pinkish red. Let's go ahead and change it. There are 64 different interior RGB color options, and you can go through it on this color wheel. So here's blue. Well, that's pretty cool. This line that goes across the middle, and then also back there. And let's see, what else? That graphic looks a little bit squished. Yeah, like the wheel aspect ratio is kind of messed up. So that aspect ratio is not how it should be. You can raise and lower the brightness. You can go through. Let's see, there's green. Okay. Some nice interior ambient lighting. It's not quite as immersive as some other ones. That's white. Let's go to red. Sometimes you can have the glow down here in the footwell, also in the side pockets here. Looks like we just have this accent line that goes all through the interior. All right, so I'm in sport mode. Let's just floor it and see what happens with 600 horsepower in the Wagoneer S. What happens is a burnout. Well, I mean, traction control turns off, but that's not what I expected. I mean, this thing makes 600 horsepower. It's 617 pound-feet of torque when you have a launch edition like this one with max power, but I'm actually kind of speechless. I did not expect it to just light up the tires. Wow, they definitely gave you the sportiness for S. It's supposed to stand for like sleek, silent, all those kind of things, but also, I guess, shred the tires. Like, what in the world? You know, I'm gonna do that again. I smell tires right now. Let's... I'm not doing a quick 0 to 60, but what in the world? Now, from a practical standpoint, I'm in sport mode, which does turn off traction control, which is why it's letting the tires spin. And obviously with electric motors, you get instant torque from 0, but this thing is genuinely, legitimately quick. Merging on the freeway, you punch it and you're up to freeway speeds instantly, like as quick as you would want. This thing is essentially as fast as a Cadillac Lyriq V, which I recently drove, and Cadillac put a lot into the whole V series treatment for their first ever electric V, but that's actually impressive. And from a steering and driving dynamics standpoint, like, I feel like the steering is actually pretty weighty. When you're in sport mode, it definitely weights up. And I actually started to like driving this thing in eco mode for just regular commuting, because it lightens up a little bit. It felt more natural. When you're in sport, it's almost more on edge, more akin to the sportiest side of EVs, like even like the most sporty ones. Not something I would expect in a luxury leaning Jeep SUV. Genuinely quite surprised and impressed. Okay, so that right there was, as I turned, putting maximum acceleration in, and that actually did not feel quite as good. That felt like the torque application was not being metered out as well, because that was a behavior that I don't necessarily want. Now, how often are you going to be driving around like a maniac and flooring it as you're turning? You probably shouldn't. I'm just being me when I'm testing the kind of stuff out, but that, okay, I'm quite a bit surprised about that, actually. Now, if we go back into like the regular modes, traction control turns back on, that's auto. If I go into eco, steering gets a lot lighter, the accelerator response is a lot more laid back. This is more kind of conventional SUV feeling. Actually, normal driving, I would prefer this mode. And actually talking to a friend who owns one, he spends actually a lot of time driving it around in eco mode. You obviously get more range if that is of importance to you, but it feels a little more natural to me. We're not in situations now where we're going to try out sand and snow, luckily, because it's summer still, although sand would probably be fun. I'd be interested to see. This still has to be a Jeep after all. So they have the select track, all the different drive modes, obviously dual motor all-wheel drive for traction and capability in all situations. Now this is a Wagoneer S. It is not a Wrangler. You're not going to get a Rubicon version of this. You're not rock crawling, but being a Jeep, it still needs to be credibly able to handle all sorts of terrain and situations, whether it's snow, going skiing, in the winter, inclement weather, maybe you need to go through a dirt road to get to your campsite or something adventure-y. That is still the Jeep brand and ethos. One other thought right now about the driving and ride dynamics. I'm surprised how firm this is. It's definitely a lot more bouncy than I expected. You feel the road. All right, back on the road, heading back to downtown Detroit. So let's wrap up some final thoughts on the Jeep Wagoneer S and answer the question if you should consider adding one of these to your garage, to your life. Now, in terms of the price, the value, we are in the launch edition, which is going to be the most expensive version currently. So this came out actually in end of 2024. There's a 24 model year, but a super short launch edition only. Now they carried it over into 2025. This one is a 2025 model year. There is a lower down trim. The Limited starts in the mid 60s range. This will be starting at $70,000. This one as optioned is just over $72,000, just under $73,000. So call it $70-ish thousand for a Wagoneer S. Now that being said, there are discounts available. Combination of incentives which are expiring very, very soon, but there are some dealer deals that I have seen. You can get these for multiple thousands of dollars off of MSRP, and lease deals will likely also be very advantageous. So it can be a decent value depending on the kind of deal you're going to find and get. But just considering it at MSRP, how does this stack up compared to other options for this money? Something that I'm immediately thinking about is the Cadillac Lyriq. So that is a full-out luxury vehicle. It's one of Cadillac's first all-electric platforms that they went out with. And from a driving dynamic standpoint, I think the Cadillac rides better, but it's one of the laziest feeling EVs. You know, when you go to an EV, typically you get that instant shove like this provides you off the line. It is quick. You're gonna be fast, it's smooth. But the GM ones seem to be a little bit more gradual. I don't know if they're trying to make it more efficient, more smooth, luxurious, whatever it is. Cadillac Lyrics, even the all-wheel drive one, the dual motor, 500-ish horsepower, whatever the number is, it's not like super quick. The Lyric V, which I drove recently, is definitely much quicker. But that's also a similar price point. You can get Lyrics in the $60-ish thousand range, and it is very luxurious. Range is going to be, I think, rated over 300 miles. So that serves to be a competitor. The Mach-E one just went by right there. Very different ethos, right? He's got Mustang inspiration there. Can be sportier. They have the Mach-E Rally now, which is pretty fun to slide around and do shenanigans with. That's across the various different trims of the Mach-E and is kind of into this price point too. So this serves to be a very interesting price segment because you're entering luxury vehicle realm, but not necessarily a full-out luxury brand per se. Jeep has had some very luxurious vehicles. The Grand Wagoneer is a competitor to the Lincoln Navigator, Cadillac Escalade, right? So they've started to move more and more upmarket with their premium luxury offerings. And like I said, this does check a lot of boxes. It does things pretty well. There are some things it does not do quite as fantastic. I think the range is just okay. We're at 72%. I'm in eco mode. It's showing 182 miles of range estimated remaining. And right now it's very warm out. I have been driving like a little bit of an idiot for a little bit of this, but also we've been commuting up from Detroit into the suburbs. I recently spent a week with a Chevy Blazer EV RS, similar battery size, range rating, and I was able to do a bit more. I was really seeing 260 miles on a charge going on the freeway. I did a trip to Chicago and back. Driver assistance tech, this needs to step up to offering full hands-free because Ford has Blue Cruise and with GM you have Super Cruise, and when you equip those properly, it's full hands-free on the freeway. I've done many miles of road trips. This one, you need to keep a hand on the wheel. The pros, I really do think the styling stands out. It's unmistakably a Jeep, but really sleek. That rear cantilever wing is really cool. The front facial lighting is really cool. It's a good looking SUV. It really does fit in the premium crowd. Interior, I think, is pretty nice. Lots of nice details. Definitely a lot of screens, but the materials are nice and it feels pretty solid. With EVs, you don't get the powertrain masking as much noise. You hear the ethereal hum in this thing, but like road noise, wind noise, tire noise is not bad. So it does feel like a really solid, well-built vehicle. Charging rate, kind of encounter that range number with charging rate. This thing is on a 400 volt architecture. You can charge it up to 200 kilowatts, which is okay. Now, in terms of speed, I think the Blazer is rated at like 190 something, just under 200 around here. So this will do 20 to 80% on DC fast charging in 23 minutes. And honestly, in most situations, your range number isn't as critical. It's really how quickly can you charge in charging stations. So if you can stop at a station and in 10, 15 minutes, a bathroom break, grab a snack, you're from 20% back up to 80% and go, that's fine. That's what I do now when I road trip. I go to 80%, stop, maybe go from 30 to 60%, hit the road again, right? That's how you're using it. If you think about gas cars, we never talked about how many gallons a fuel tank is in your range. Like I've owned sports cars where you fill it up and it's like, 203 miles empty. But you don't worry about that because you have charging stations everywhere. And that's another point, charging stations. Currently, as far as I know, you can't go to a Tesla station with any Stellantis family vehicle. You can now on Rivian. I've seen GMs there, I've seen Fords there. So I personally just did that road trip to Chicago and back, and I only went to Tesla superchargers, and it expands your network. Use the adapter. Now going forward, everything is moving to that standard, so it will eventually mesh, but that is a consideration at the moment if you're shopping for one of these. So let's go on to positives. If you have a Jeep, you're a Jeep person, you like your Jeep, it's worth consideration, especially if you can get a good deal. I think they've improved some things. When I heard early on some of the reviews, the route planning was something that was a big downside. Some of the driving dynamics. I haven't found anything objectionable. I'm actually surprised how firm this thing does ride on the sportier side for sure. And I mean, I literally did like a 15-foot burnout in this thing. I was actually genuinely shocked by that. I literally just put it in sport mode and just floored it. And I'm like, okay, we're going sideways and it's literally making tire smoke. So I thought that was actually hilarious. What else? Any other final thought? That is a very purple Bentley. My goodness. Wow, that is the eggplant emoji in real life. A good start for Stellantis. I think if they address a couple of those points, it would become extremely compelling, definitely luxurious in many, many ways. We'll see where they go as they continue to push into this foray. And the other good news is if you are a Jeep person and you don't necessarily want full EV, there's still the plug-in hybrids. I think the best-selling plug-in hybrid SUV in America is the Wrangler plug-in hybrid. And then the third best-selling one is the Grand Cherokee plug-in hybrid. Like, oh, that one's not a plug-in hybrid, but there's one right there, right? So you have options there for both full gas, full EV, or in the middle with a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Options do exist. But there we go. A day spent with the Jeep Wagoneer S, exploring downtown Detroit, the suburbs, having a bit of fun, and just seeing what the Wagoneer S is like. Jana, thank you for being drive partner. It was a lot of fun finding on the murals. That was actually a lot of fun. Going around Detroit, checking out the murals, and also burning some tires in a Wagoneer S. Unexpected surprise. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below, would you consider a Wagoneer S? Would you go for a Mach-E, maybe a Tesla Model Y, Model X? Would you go for a Lyriq, Blazer EV? There's actually a lot of options popping up for us now when you're starting to shop in this segment around these price points. Thanks for watching.